What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Get Weird with your host, myself, Brittany Barbieri. I cannot believe we are so close to Christmas. I am not ready for it to leave and be a whole new year. I love Christmas. It's my favorite time of the year, and it is something that I cherish very much. As I've said in past episodes on here, I honestly don't want it to go away. But with that being said, December 25th also drops on Netflix the Volume 2 of Stranger Things Season 5. So, pros and cons, right? Pros and cons. I am ecstatic. I've made a couple of funny reels, if you're following my Instagram page, regarding this issue, because I am with a majority of fans where we sit regarding Steve Harrington's character, that we do not want anything to happen to him. There are several characters in the show that if they were to be X'd out on the series finale, like, you know, would we cry? Maybe. I don't know. But I would be like, I'll get over it. I'm not gonna, break a chair. You know what I mean? But like Steve Harrington, my goodness, like that character, come on. You can't. Like, let him live. Let him live, or do something so awesome and heroic. Oh, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm on the fence. I'm nervous. I don't know what to expect. I'm a huge Stranger Things fan. I just love that show. So it's hard for me to even say goodbye to the darn show. So it's interesting. I'm rewatching the seasons right now so that I'm ready to go with any clues, because the theories out there are driving me nuts. Anyway, moving on. I just, Christmas and Stranger Things. What better? So on today's episode, I'm going to get into it. I decided to do a Bigfoot episode. I love Bigfoot, and so many people out there love Bigfoot, love the big hairy guy. And it is Christmas, so I decided to pull a real verified case of a Bigfoot encounter that happened in northern Michigan to talk about, because it did take place in December of 2002, and it's cataloged officially by the BFRO. And I'm like, you know what, this would make sense to do because we're in December. Why not? Let's do a December Bigfoot case. So buckle up. I don't know if you're in your car. I don't know if you're on the sofa. I don't know if you're in the potty, or maybe in the gym. Wherever you are, let's get weird. That didn't sound strange at all, did it? Okay. So this incident took place in Northwest Michigan, which was in the county of Benzie, which I've never been to. But judging by the photographs, it looks like it's pretty. Foresty area, rolling terrain, long stretches of isolated roads, very country, which is beautiful. So in December, it's basically just a frozen wilderness, almost like Elsa just froze the place, which is actually pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. I love snow. So, I grew up in the Rocky Mountains of Estes Park, Colorado. And let me tell you what, I've been through some blizzards. Okay. So it's all good. Where like my dad would come inside from taking care of the ranch animals from our llamas and stuff, and have like frozen icicles on his mustache. So, we've been through it. But the snowbanks, that shoulder the roads, and the sky is black, and, the wind wisps right through your clothes, and in some cases it's just dead silent outside. So this is just giving you kind of an idea of what to expect in that type of coldness, and that kind of cold weather. There you go. It's it's me. I'll just make up words today. Our witness had reported on this particular case that they were heading home at around 1:30 a.m. There were no other cars on the road. No other houses nearby during this particular incident. It was a really long, dark stretch of the road. They were driving a pickup truck. The headlights were on. It was quiet, and it was a very heavy snow-covered road, which is typical, right? So according to his report, he begins to see some movement ahead. And it does appear that someone is beginning to cross the road, or at least that's what he thinks, that it's a person just crossing the road. Maybe, I don't know who'd be out like in a tundra, like in a friggin' storm in the winter. I don't know who would do that unless you're like just really you're a real You really love that winter storm. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so he slows down and he keeps watching because, again, he's probably scratching his head just like we would be. Like, who would be out in this weather? Are they crazy or they're weird? I'm just saying. But the shape becomes clear to the observer, to the driver, much bigger in shape, much larger. And what he thought was a man and maybe like a heavy brown coat ends up not being a man at all. Not even a bear, like walking across. Because, I mean, there have been accounts where bears have stood up to make themselves look much larger, and they can take a couple of steps. Like, they can, trust me, and they do. It's all for intimidation because they want to get a higher advantage point of looking at their meal, just so you know. As the creature stepped fully into the beam of the headlights, the witness realized exactly at that point what he was looking at. And this is where everything changed for this poor person. So the witness described seeing a figure around 7 to 8 feet tall, covered in dark brown hair from head to toe. Not wearing a coat. Nope, from head to toe. With shoulders which he described almost as wide as the hood of his truck. Now, come on now. That's crazy. I know that some of these Sasquatch and Bigfoot reports they're massive in height, and I know that they're like swimmers build, so they have like severe, like no neck and a bunch of like shoulders to go for miles. But I just think that fear has kicked in. So we're adding a few inches here. I mean, let's not be too crazy. So he's saying that it appeared to be as wide as the hood, but I'm sure it was not. Let's just be realistic because we're talking about how close was he? We don't know exactly how close he was to this creature. And now we have headlights on it. It's accentuating with shadows. Got to be realistic, folks. He said that the head sat low and forward, much like a gorilla posture, which, again, we get a lot of that with Bigfoot and Sasquatch sightings. So that makes a lot of sense. Long, smooth arms swinging back and forth that did not have the same fluid movement as a human. Again, another significant piece of the report that lines up with a lot of Sasquatch and Bigfoot accounts. The creature walked calmly across the road in front of him, never looking at him once. No reaction to the truck, no panic, not freezing up in the headlights like deers, nothing of a sort. Just continued on its path across the road, doing what it was doing that night. I don't know, looking for a Christmas tree. It was walking with total confidence and literally just probably has done this 1,000 times and didn't even care about the truck and was like, you're going to stop for me. Okay. You know that I'm Sasquatch. I like run the woods. So close your little Toyota truck here. Slow you down. So let's get into the stranger detail of the account. The one detail that stood out was something almost every Bigfoot researcher does pay attention to or investigator, which is the stride of the creature. So the witness said that the creature stepped across the ditch at the side of the road like it was absolutely nothing. Smooth step, no break in motion, and a human would have to literally stop and adjust their footing, really, and maybe even hop, honestly, over the bank. So the fact that this creature just basically was like, one long leg over, that tells you that we're dealing with something much larger if it was able just to glide over it with ease. So again, that is a note in this account where we're like, okay, we have a stride now that is telling us that this is definitely not a bear. And by the way, bears don't have shoulders the size of a football field. Let's just, And I'm not saying he said a football field. Okay, he said the roof of his truck, but I'm just saying bears don't have shoulders. It's like a long neck and straight down arms, like no shoulder syndrome. Okay, I just want to point that out. So the witness's reaction to this was that basically he was like, that's not a man. Then I have absolute certainty this was not a human being in any way, shape, or form out here like a wilderness man dressed up in fur and coats and stuff. Like, this was something much bigger. It left the eyewitness feeling very threatened and almost in shock, like sitting in the vehicle. With sitting in a car and seeing this, you have to understand like what your thought process is, especially if you've never experienced it or seen a Bigfoot before and you believed it to be fake. You're looking at something that all you have ever believed was that it's not real. Like, this isn't real. People aren't seeing this. They're crazy. They're just making this up for publicity. And then when you experience something, whether it be Sasquatch, Bigfoot, supernatural, UFO, whatever, you're immediately forever changed. There is a shift in your reality that takes place. So I cannot imagine being alone in my truck at night in a snowstorm, or what would have been a snowstorm, and then you got freshly laid snow on a blacked out single road, no houses nearby, nobody to hear you scream. Let's just let that sink in. And this massive creature decides that I'm just going to go across the road. He'll stop for me. And again, it's very, very rare that we ever hear cases where Sasquatch like freaking rips off doors, takes a person out, drags them, eats them. Like, these cases they're not realistic. They don't happen. We have very few. I'm talking maybe in one handful of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of accounts of seeing these creatures that they are ever aggressive. And most of the time, when you look at even the aggressive cases where they're throwing rocks, or they're we could name like Ape Canyon, right? These are accounts that, in my opinion, were more territorial, and you shot one of them. So they're defending it's like, I'm sorry, if someone shot one of my family members, you don't think I'm going to come bust up your house? I'm just saying, if I was an ape, that's what I would do. So, you also have to look at their mental state versus ours. Honestly, they are probably like a superior. So to them, they are the kings of the forest. And to them, we're a nothing. We're like a deer, like just whatever. And they know to evade us. They know to go away from us. They know to stay away and avoid us at all costs. So for me, I'm never shocked when it's like, it didn't even react to me. It just walked across the road, or it made eye contact with me and it made its presence known and then it left. Yeah, it made its presence known because it doesn't fear you. It knows that it's like freaking 3 feet taller than you and massive, and that muscle mass, it could probably rip your arms off without even a blink of an eye. So it doesn't have to be fearful of you. You're like, what, 200 pounds, 6 foot? Please. He's laughing as he's walking away. Like, you know what I mean? So it comes into even looking at animals. Animals are not stupid. They know to fear humans. It's not like we don't do stuff in the woods where they see what we do to their own kind to fear and know to stay away. So and these creatures are supposed to be super intelligent, so I'm not shocked. But I never hear about an aggressive case, but it doesn't matter if you have never heard of an aggressive case, right? That's like super intense aggressive. Portlock was a very aggressive case, but again, it was territorial case, right? So you're looking at somebody who's seeing something that they had maybe heard stories of, never believed in, and now it's right in front of their eyes. It doesn't matter. Immediately you're like, if I die, this is how I'm going out. This thing could literally rip my door off and murder me right here on the side of the road, and nobody would find me. Nobody. Until somebody came plowing through with the car the next day, or the snow plower the next day. You know what I mean? So there's still that fear that sinks into us because now our reality has shifted, if that makes sense. I probably went on a little chat. Like, I chatted a little too long on this topic, but you get what I'm saying. So after this happened, the BFRO investigator, Jim Sherman, followed up with the witness to confirm, right, everything that took place. And he confirmed that the location was extremely isolated, which again, freaking terror, right? That you're seeing this thing and you're completely alone and no one to hear you scream. The times and condition matched known winter sightings, which is fascinating to me. So yeah, that one, let's let that sink in. So if it matches, is it a common path, migration, heading to a certain location? There are some that believe that their proximity in which they live is very similar to a black bear's or to a bear's. So it's not a very large range, maybe a 5 mile, 10 mile range at most. So we're looking at maybe that's why they're seeing this particular winter sighting, because maybe it could be the same one or possibly even the same family. You just don't know, right? So On top of that, we also have the witness had no motive to lie about something like this, which that's great because obviously that tells us that this person was probably not a believer to begin with, and this startled this person. The description did match other Michigan encounters down to the posture and the arm swing. Again, the stride, the structure, the way that the animal is built, the way the animal is reacting, how it moves. These are key factors that we look for in investigating cases regarding Sasquatch, Bigfoot. No tracks were found the next day because the snowplows had already come through and cleared the road, which is typical in most winter areas, especially Michigan, that they would want to get the roads ready for school or for whatever, for work, people to come through. Now, I don't know if they didn't check on the outsides, because if there's snow on the road, there's obviously snow on the outsides as well and into the forest. So I don't know if they just didn't check for those. I don't know. Again, the case did not list that whatsoever. So I want to put that out there for everyone. So moving on in the case, we have an interest in this case because the roadway sightings matter. Road crossings make up a huge portion of credible Bigfoot and Sasquatch sightings. And why, there's not 100% certainty as to why, but in most cases, when the headlights hit the creature, we do have a clean, unobstructed view of the said creature, right? Where the witness is usually alone, so there's no noise, no distraction, maybe listening to the radio. So they're very in tune on their drive. They're in tune with their surroundings is what I'm trying to say. So they're going to notice anything that would be, I mean, I know I used to drive home from work at like 2:00 in the morning from my jobs and be like very alert and very awake and pumping from the jobs that I had done or whatever, driving home in the wee hours in the morning. I was very aware when I'd see animals on the side of the road. I remember making like a list one time of seeing all the different animals I would see coming home. But Michigan is also a hotspot for these types of nocturnal winter encounters, which I find fascinating. But again, if you go into the northern region and you go into certain states, we start to see a pattern also in these types of sightings. And I think that that's really interesting because I would like to know, I mean, there's a lot of local investigators up there that have their own theories and thoughts, but I would like to apply more animal-based tactics and theories to this outside of just the assumption of what we think we know regarding Sasquatch and Bigfoot, because let's face it, we don't have one yet that we have put in a tracker, that we are watching its movements. We're watching what it does. Does it have a family? Does it go by itself? Like, what does it do? Does its behavior match that of primates? We don't know. Like, we think we know. We have assumptions, we have theories, we have ideas, but we don't have 1,000%, 100% certainty like we do with most animals on our planets that we're able to monitor, watch, observe, and basically take notes on all the time through scientific research. So obviously, the more that we collect and the more that we investigate, the more evidence we have to start putting together pieces and puzzles, just like paleontologists. They're putting together pieces and puzzles of life of a species that doesn't exist anymore, right? So we're still looking at investigating Sasquatch like a crime scene because we don't know who the real hunter is. We don't know who this person is. We don't know who this creature is. We don't know what this creature really is. And so we're still learning piece by piece. And I know that there are so many people out there that are going to fight me on that and be like, no, we know. But you don't. Because if you really did know, we would already have this thing tracked. We would have a chip in it. We would be monitoring the breeding populations. We would be monitoring when they travel, when they hibernate, what they eat. We assume we know what they eat. But from different reports I have gathered over the last 21 years professionally in the field, it is not always deer. Believe it or not, the majority of their diet in some places, especially in most of the research I pulled in Canada even, we're looking at more living off the land as far as like fruits and plants. That's a big game changer in how we look at this thing. And only every once in a while it may take down a deer, but mostly it lived off of fish and plants and things like this. And so for me, that's fascinating. These are things that I have to look at to where I'm now looking at it from an animal perspective of survival and things like that. So that to me is very, very interesting. And we can't ignore those facts. And then there were years where people are like, they don't swim. But then as I'm investigating and I'm in the field or I'm in different areas in different countries and I'm hearing, oh no, they swim. They cross it. They kind of swim like giant frogs. Well, that's what an orangutan looks like when they swim. So they do like, a very like odd stroke with their front and back legs, with their front arms and back legs. So again, we don't have all the answers, and that is okay. That's what makes the mystery of Sasquatch and Bigfoot so fun and amazing. But each piece of the puzzle leads us closer to what we might be dealing with. And again, I encourage a lot of people to understand what a hunter will do in the woods for shelter, because I have seen a lot of misidentified shelters as what people are claiming are Bigfoot shelters, but they're actually just hunting shelters where people will put a bunch of sticks together and lay them up against, and then they take their, I can't remember the name of it right now, but basically it's like hunting blind, and they just drape it on top of that, and they will tuck in so that they're leveled and they can conceal their scent, and they stay out of the weather conditions. And a lot of people use those when they go looking for Sasquatch and Bigfoot because they're already pre-built. So it's just something like that where I've actually had a hunter here in Florida that had mentioned to me, oh yeah, I see my hunting spot on different Bigfoot accounts all the time. And I have tried telling them that's actually mine. I use that when I go out hunting for hogs and deer. But nobody listens to me. They think I'm just trying to poo-poo that, I don't believe in their skunk ape. But I do believe in skunk ape. I had an experience in the 80s that has stuck with me. And that's why I'm a little bit more guarded when I go out. But I've seen my hunting blind on different accounts. So I think it's important that we pay attention to the location that we're in, what could be in this area. So don't just always assume that it's Bigfoot activity. We really need to do a very deep, and there are some really phenomenal teams here in Florida that do that type of deep dive to say, it looks like it could be a Sasquatch or Bigfoot or skunk ape activity, but we probably should examine the area, make sure that this isn't, on a local hunting area, like here, use my blind when you're out in this area. Like there are ways to find that information out. So there are a lot of really good teams here in Florida that do that. And I just think that that's so essential. We can't just always, I want to believe in Bigfoot just as much as anybody else. I am a huge believer. I do believe it exists. I always will believe that. No one can tell me otherwise because I have seen so much in my life being in both fields and in different areas of cryptozoology, even in zoology and paranormal and ufology. I have seen so much that people said wasn't possible actually end up being possible and have left scientists scratching their heads. I've had conversations with biologists and scientists that have been like, yeah, we can't explain it. Like, we don't really want to getting out, but we can't explain it, And so it does alter and change your perception of the world around you, right? But with that being said, I can't jump to a conclusion and be like, oh, definitely Bigfoot's out here, bending trees, making wreaths, making a house, making this look like his home. I can't believe that for myself unless I saw them doing it. Like, I can be like, yeah, this looks a little strange out here. This looks a little weird. I'll document it. I might take some samples, see what I can get back. Some samples are probably not going to be worth a dime, but I'll see what I can do. But in the meantime, I have to stay level-headed and really approach things very analytical. And even for me, like I said, I'm like a little kid in a candy shop when it comes to Bigfoot. I get very excited, but then I have to take a step back and go, the inside of me is saying no, like this isn't adding up. So I have to be logical, but I do think something's out there. I do 100%. I do think something's out there. And I think it has learned to avoid human interaction because it was taught that by its ancestors and growing up with other, indigenous tribes and learning and focusing on what we need to do to survive as a species. And I think they've done an excellent job at it. I mean, we're still discovering new species of animals left and right. And I know people go, yeah, but they're not the size of like a 7-foot creature. You're 100% right. But I can tell you right now, there are thousands upon thousands of acreage and land across the United States and up into Canada and into Alaska even, that has not had a single human footprint in it because it is so dense and so vast. And when you get dropped off in the middle of the forests of Canada, where I have done much investigation and research, you will look around and you'll go, you don't want to be found? You're not going to be found out here. In fact, I had a conversation with a gentleman out there who told me that there was a man who was a hiker, trained hiker, got off his hiking trail and was lost. And he was doing everything in his power to be found. He was doing everything he could possibly do. And it still took them well over a week to find him and for him to find his bearings to get back on to where they could find him on a common trail. And even he had told them, if something is out here, it's never going to be seen or found unless it wants to be seen or found. And in a lot of cases, you see sightings with juveniles up there because I think it's more or less the curiosity of the species because they're young, they're curious, and they're interested, much like the younglings in primates that you see, they get curious and they want to know. So we have to look at each single thing. But let me tell you, if you have never been deep into the forests, and I don't mean Ocala National here in Florida. I grew up in the Rockies. I'm talking about deep forests and learning the cave systems even that are still uncharted by humans. If something doesn't want to be found, it's very easy to never be seen or found. And this is why hunters and loggers are some of the highest ranked people to have these accounts because they spend the most time in the forests and they sit quietly. And then you have the loggers who are out there going deep into the forest, into ranges untouched to take down massive trees. So you are invading their home, their environment, their ecosystem. So you're kind of pushing them out. So that is why you're seeing them through these people. And I believe those accounts so much greater than someone living in a rural, like a modern time town that it's like, we just had a Bigfoot in our backyard. Maybe if he was like coming through late one night because everybody's destroyed his forest. But it's really hard. And I have this discussion a lot with my friends that live and have only grown up in the city. They cannot fathom it. They cannot fathom it. Plus they don't like nature. So they can't fathom being out there and literally being dropped off in the middle of nowhere, no cell service. You're begging for your satellite phone to work to catch a signal through the trees, and it's not. And you're looking around going, wow, like you could be out here and never be seen and you'd never be found, like ever. So even in some of those missing cases where people just go into the forest and go missing, I don't know if they have gone into portals, and I don't necessarily believe in the whole Bigfoot took them type stories. I just think that they ran away from whatever their life was, whatever the issues were, and they found a way to escape from it, and most likely will die in the woods if they're not well trained to be in the woods. But I think a lot of those are just natural caused deaths of going into the woods and getting lost. Personally, that's my opinion. I'm not saying anyone has to agree with me. But when we look at these types of accounts, especially this one where we have something crossing the road in Michigan late at night, 1:30 in the morning, heavy snowfall, not even reacting to the person, it's just literally doing what it does and it just crosses the road and is never seen again. It's not portal jumping. It's not interdimensional. We're looking at an actual physical creature that knows exactly what it's doing, and that is its home. It knows it better than anybody. I don't care who you think you are. That animal grew up in those woods. It knows it better than you. Trust me. Keep that in mind the next time you're out in the woods, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this case. I hope you enjoyed this story. It was fun sharing with each and every one of you. I hope that as we get closer to Christmas, there will be one more episode as we get closer to Christmas. And then I'm just going to have a really fun episode to end the year as we head into the new year, because the next time you hear my voice after the last two episodes of this season, we will be in January. Holy cow. So I plan to make the next 2 very fun, and the last one of the year just fun, enjoyable, exciting as we step into the brand new year of 2026. So until then, everybody, listen, you know what I'm going to say. Stay weird.